need a big G-clamp across here, and then we can get welding. It's knocking off time, so that'll be it then. Ooh, that's nice. Just drying my back plate. Welcome back. Now, moving on to mechanicals now. It's very important when you're in a workshop. We have a principle that when a job goes really, really well, but you're getting a bit bored of it, stop. Because that way, when you go back to it, you'll be on a mental high, OK? So we've left the bodywork. We know that's working very nicely, and now concentrating our efforts on the rear axle. And what an agricultural piece of kit it is. Frankly, it looks like it's come out of a Land Rover. Yes, this is the rear axle, OK, and I've kind of started work on it, so I'll take you through where I've got to so far. First thing is I had it blasted when it was complete, sealed up all the orifices, like here, the breather, and also taped up round the flange of the pinion bearing here to make sure we didn't get any grit or nasty stuff inside the axle case. This end I've already taken out the drive shaft, taken off the hub. I'll show you that in a second. We've taken the cover off the diff. There is some work we need to do in there. And I'm just about to take the hub off the other end. One of the things that's really obvious from blasting it's here on both sides where there was a bracket holding on to the bump stop. It's been a trap for rubbish and mud and whatever, and it's really badly corroded. Now, I was worried that it might go through, right through to the inside of the case when we blasted it, but it seems OK, and I'm going to fill that up with some special molecular metal. Now, they call this a semi-floating axle. We have absolutely no idea why, apart from the fact we did think maybe if you accidentally drove the car into a pond, one hub might be submerged and the other one out of the water. And therefore, ergo sum, it would be semi-floating. Next job is to remove the hub, which can be a bit tricky because it can get a bit seized on the splines, even though you've taken the nut off the end. Now, according to the book, it says removing and replacing a hub, what you need is this. It is a service tool, number 18G304, with adapter 18G304A. So that'll be that, and for good luck, those bits as well. So what you do, Les, give me a hand, thank you very much indeed. You put on a G-clamp, so that one end of the clamp goes around the back of the hub, and the other clamps this big plate of metal across the front end of the shaft. And you have to do it very evenly and put it under a bit of tension. Then you stand sideways and pick up the hammer, which is part 18G304D, I think you'll find, and then you give it a clout, like that. And there you go. And it's sliding like a good. Now, of course, you could buy a puller tool to do that. You could, of course, buy the proper tool. But we're too mean, aren't we?
You are.
What do you mean I am? So this is the wheel bearing in here, and it's a very agricultural-looking bit of kit, and they very rarely go wrong. But we've got to get the drive shafts out because we've got to do a little bit of repair work on the diff. So the next bit we've got to do is to be able to pull this outer bearing case out of the casting of the axle. Now, it's obviously a press fit, so it's pretty tight. Now, again, you can use a special tool to do this, but we haven't got a special tool. So what we've done is to make one out of the little bits of threaded shaft that we use to attach the engine to the engine trolley. And all we've got is a couple of nuts on them. Put them through the holes there in the end of the axle case, like that. And they act like spacers that we're going to push against. And you get out the hub, put that on there like that, and then just adjust these threaded bars so they press evenly on the backs of the studs on the hub, like that. Put on the hub nut. And then all we're going to do is, by tightening the hub nut, that will push the flange that way. It can't go anywhere because of these studs, so it means the shaft and the bearing will all have to come out this way, or that's the theory. You just need to put in a screwdriver to stop the whole thing turning, and then give it a whiz. There we go. Perfect. It cost us pence. Now the parts from that hub are in the washer, I can get on with the diff. And the problem with the diff, if I just rotate this other shaft, which I've just put in so that I can show you all the differential gears turning round, you will see there is a lot of slop on these differential gears, which is likely to be due to excessive wear, which will cause clonking. So I need to take these gears out to replace their thrust washers. First thing you have to do is knock out this roll pin. Like that, drops out in the bottom. We've got to remove this big pin that goes through the two planet wheels. Knock it out part of the way. If you knock it out too much the first way, you won't be able to rotate it and the whole thing will get jammed. So just enough to be able to release it. And then pull it out, like that. Literally, it just slots out now. There we go. And that then releases the two planet wheels, which you can kind of walk them out now, one at a time. There's one, and there's t'other. And then the big sun wheels, which the drive shafts go into, we can just pull out. So here are the bits in front of us, and you can see the old thrust washers down here. There's one. And what you notice immediately about these is how worn they are, and there's a real lip on the edge there. That will account for some of the slop in those wheels. As far as the big sun wheels are concerned, their thrust washers they're almost like a fibre, and we've only found one of them. So one has completely disintegrated somewhere. But look at the difference in thickness between the new one and the old one. Can you see that? OK. So that'll go. There'll be new thrust washers on all of these, which will take up that slop and will stop the clunking that inevitably this differential would have had. So all we've got to do now is put it back together again.
This is a 1930 MG Tigress. It was also known as the MG6. History of this car is well documented. The MG car company built it specifically for Lord Rothschild. Just before the war, it was bought by a chap called Christopher Barker. He already owned the other surviving Tigress, and he owned the two up until his death in 1997. It's only done 30,939 miles from new. Tigress mascot was designed by Gordon Crosby. SS Lions, who are now Jaguar, decided to commission Crosby to do a fairly similar one, and there was a pretty messy court battle. MG didn't use it anymore, and Jaguar still have it on theirs. They're not rocket science to work on. I mean, it's all pretty basic stuff, but unfortunately there are no spares around. If it breaks, you've got to make it. I love the car dearly. I enjoy driving it on the motorway, around the